My name is Shetty. I'm the host and producer here at HuffPost Rise and also a former monk. Today we're talking about choices, decisions, and more importantly, how we think about these choices. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to reach for your handbag, your purse, your wallet, whatever you've got around you, or even if it's a small pig or whatever it is that you keep your coins in. I want you to grab that coin. Grab any coin. If you don't have a coin, you can grab a note. I haven't got mine on me, but grab a note. And I want you to find each coin or a note should have the year it was coined or the year it was printed on that item, right? You can send it to me if you feel like it. HuffPost offices in New York, if you feel like sending it. I'm joking. So what you can do is just find that year on that coin or that note. And I want you to think about the best choice or the best decision you've made since that year, right? Grab a coin next to you, grab a note, anywhere that's near you, find the year. Think of the best decision you've made since that year. Let's get lots more people this weekend thinking about their choices, thinking about how they work. Now, I really want to talk to you today about how we make choices, how we think. One of the biggest challenges is that we all have assumptions about choices that aren't necessarily based on science. They aren't necessarily based on fact. They're just based on how we've always felt. Now, one of those assumptions is that if a choice affects you, you've got to be the one to make it, right? You're the only person who can make that choice well. I want to tell you about this really interesting study. They took a group of 7 to 9-year-olds and split them up into 3 different groups, right? 7 to 9-year-olds, I always wonder why they put kids through these excruciating experiments, but they always decide to do that. But they split them up into 3. The first group was greeted by Miss Smith, given 6 puzzles, and the kids got to choose which puzzle they did, and they also got to choose the color pen in which they did it. Now, this is from a very good TED Talk by Sheena Iyengar, where she talks about the art of choosing. So imagine you're a 7 to 9-year-old kid, you walk into a classroom, you're greeted by Miss Smith, but you're told you can grab any puzzle you like, and you can use any color pen you like, pink, red, yellow, blue. That's group 1. Remember, there's 3 groups. The second group was actually greeted by Miss Smith, but they were told what to do. They were told which color was for them, they were told which puzzle to do, and they said it was already picked by Miss Smith, right? And now the third group, the 7 to 9-year-olds, they came in and they were told by Miss Smith that the puzzles and the pen color they chose were already chosen by their mothers, right? And one of the girls actually said, "Did you actually contact my mother? How did you do that?" Right? So 3 groups. The first group got to pick their puzzle, pick their pen. The second group was told it was picked by Miss Smith, the teacher. And the third group were told that it was picked by their mother. Now, which group would you like to be in, right? Imagine you're 7 to 9 years old again. Which group would you like to be in? One of the amazing things about this study is that they did the same activity. Right, all the kids did the same puzzles, all the kids had the same pens. There were no more or less choices. The interesting thing they found is that the kids that they'd chosen were of 2 backgrounds. One was Anglo-American and one was Asian-American. The Anglo-American children, they did best, right, when they did what their self, when they chose what they wanted to do, they almost did 3 times as better as when they were told that their mother had wanted them to do it, right? So they performed better when they felt it was their own choice. Now, in stark contrast, the amazing thing is the Asian American children that did this activity, they performed best when they were told their mother had selected the colors and the puzzle that they were going to take part in. One of the kids even went up to Miss Smith afterwards and said, "Please let my mother know that I did it exactly how she would have wanted me to do it." And she said that with great pride. Now look at this stark contrast in the way the puzzle and the study has shown us results. It's showing us that certain people, some of us, love to make decisions that we feel are totally ourselves and totally owned by ourselves. Whereas some of us like decisions to be influenced by people that we care about, specific people that we value, specific people that we feel have greater experience than us and our best interest at heart. Notice we're all different, right? And just becoming aware of that for our own selves helps us make decisions. That's why when someone else says to you, and when they're angry at you and you're not making decisions, someone says, "Oh, just pick, for God's sake, it's your life, you know, you can decide what you want to do." The thing is, some of us actually want more support, some of us want less support. So we've got to be so careful when we're A, giving advice, but B, also when we're taking advice, because the way we react to either making decisions for ourselves or making decisions based on how other people are helping us will be different. She also gives this great example in her talk where she talks about when she was in China and she tried to order a green tea with sugar. The waiter came up to her and said, sorry, in China, we don't drink green tea with sugar, right? That's not what you drink it with. She said, but, I drink green tea with sugar all the time. I want some green tea with sugar. He said, no, we don't serve green tea with sugar. They were just really persistent about it. So Sheena then, giving this TED Talk, she talks about how she actually approached the manager and said, can I just have some green tea with sugar, please? That's it. It's a simple request. The manager then said to her, we've actually run out of sugar. So, not being able to procure that for herself, she said, fine, I'll settle for a coffee, right? The funny thing is, they brought out the coffee and right next to it were 2 cubes of sugar, right? They had sugar. It's just that they felt different about the choices that were available, different about the choices that should be available. Hence, we all react differently to the way choices work. I know Starbucks slogan, I saw it the other day, happiness is in your choices. I want to go through that next assumption. We all have this assumption that if we have more choices, if we have more options, that actually it's better, that's what makes life better, and that improves our quality of living. Right, so this is actually what she was assessing. What she found is that when she lined up 8 cans of different types of soda or fizzy drinks in the States, people saw that as 8 different choices. When she did the same in Eastern Europe, people saw it as one choice, soda. When she put 8 cans of different types of fizzy drinks or soda next to each other, whether it was Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, whatever it is, right? All these different types of drinks, Tango, Sprite, all next to each other. And then she put water and a fruit juice, like orange juice. People in Eastern Europe saw that as 3 choices. They saw soda as one choice because it's either to have soda or not have soda. It wasn't a specific preference. Notice how different cultures are when it comes to choice and seeing and perceiving choice. So we're talking about how we make choices. We're looking at lots of different examples. I want to talk to you about how we make choices for ourselves. There's something called, we talked at the start of the week about something called compassion fatigue. I want to talk to you about something today called decision fatigue. It seems we all suffer from fatigue in one way or the other. Decision fatigue is that every time our brain makes a decision, it gets more tired to make the next one. Believe it or not, it's true. It's like there's a little person in your head having to make decisions, solve math problems, and every time you engage them to do that, they run out of energy, just as when you hire a person to work for you. So that little person's in your head getting tired. So they found that people who invest time and energy to make daily decisions, trying to make so many decisions every day, people who don't plan, people who poorly plan, and therefore their day is full of making smaller, insignificant decisions, struggle with the bigger decisions. They found people who just been out grocery shopping without a list and just been out clothes shopping without a list or what they wanted to do, struggled more on a math equation than people who had the same grades as them but didn't do that in the morning, right? Fascinating. When you'd been out grocery shopping without making a list, when you'd gone out shopping for some shoes or that new t-shirt or whatever it is that you're looking for, that summer dress, even though summer's over today, supposedly, officially, I have no idea, but whatever it is, if you'd been making multiple decisions during the day, you struggled with the next decision. And that's why it's great to have some choices in our life that are just organized, that are just routine, that just run through a plan. We go shopping on the same day every week. We have a list every week in the same place. These things eliminate what we call decision fatigue. They stop you from getting pulled and stretched into making daily decisions that you don't need to be making. In terms of this decision fatigue, the interesting thing is they did some study around judges in court. They found that judges, their default option, and that's what happens with decision fatigue, is we make more decisions. We start to go for the easy option. We go for the safe option. We don't challenge our assumptions. So they found that judges, their default, their safe option is to not offer parole and to keep the person behind bars. That's the safest option for a judge when they're not sure. The amazing thing they found, and this is good for you, next time you're booking a court date, hopefully never for you, but if you guys ever are booking a court date, just remember this. Judges are more likely to give you parole in the morning or just after a break. Why? Because in the morning, they're not subject to decision fatigue. They've come across fresh just after a break, they're fresh. But if you're towards the end of the line, you're more likely to get rejected for parole and kept behind bars. Those people who had cases in the morning were 65% more likely to be offered parole. Incredible research showing us. So one of the key takeaways from that is make big decisions in the morning. Don't make small decisions. If you're wasting your small decision in the morning figuring out what am I going to eat for breakfast, what am I going to eat for lunch, what am I going to eat for dinner, how am I going to get to work? What am I going to wear to work? If you're using your morning to make decisions like that, some really quick snap decisions that need to be made under pressure, you're going to run out of loads of energy, right? It's going to feel like things are moving really fast. But actually, if you made those decisions the night before and spent your morning really using that time to rise, wake, and actually focus on the big decisions for that day, what do you want to achieve today? What kind of people do you want to connect with today? Right? What do you need to deliver today? What needs to be done today? When you focus on those things in the morning, that's going to have a better impact for you making the right choices. So shift to morning decision making. So it's not that we've got to change and make everything routine and that it has to be boring. It's just that you make the simple decisions routine and planned, and the ones that really make an impact on your life, you take your time to do that. I posted this quote earlier today which talked about how, you have the choice. You either take off your shoes or you scrub the floor. That's the situation we're always in. There is no choice that won't require hardship. There is no choice that won't require effort. There is no choice that won't pose some challenges. The choice we all have to make is assess the challenges that the choice possesses and choose our challenges. Essentially, that is what choices are today. The choice you're making is not better or worse. It's picking the challenges you feel you're ready to handle, the challenges you feel you're ready to take, right? I'll give you an example, a small example. So I've got the choice to move to the US, which I've just done in New York, or I've got the choice to stay back in London. Now, either of the choices could be good for my success. But the interesting thing is that the challenges are different, right? And so that's what we've got to analyze. Rather than analyzing the outcome of your decision or trying to predict the outcome, try and assess the challenges and how ready you are to face them. We need to simplify our choices. If you're trying to choose a career option, you're trying to choose a life partner, Match.com offers you 15 million perfect matches, right? That's the chances of you finding the one on Match.com. Amazon gives you the choice of 27 million books. The interesting thing is, it's when you solidify, it's when you simplify, it's when you make your choices smaller. You may say, oh God, there's like 10 careers I could do right now. Put them all on the table, get attracted, start reading, then simplify, then choose the 3 that you're going to choose from. You may say, you may be in the lucky position, I've got 10 partners to choose from on Match.com, 10 people that match perfectly with me, right? Simplify. Use the number to attract you. Don't try and make big decisions when you're hungry. It's true, right? If you're making bad decisions, it could be that you are hungry. Scientific research proves that we make better decisions on a full stomach. Obviously not overly full too, where you fall asleep, but definitely having eaten energy foods. If you're making most of your decisions under pressure, under stress, that's going to tire out that little person making the decisions in your head much faster, right? Think about it as a normal person. Simplify. Make simple decisions the night before. Schedule, plan, routine as much as you can. Create things that just have a workflow, that just stay in order, that work in systems. Then you can shift to the stuff that makes and matters to you. We don't make the best decisions when we're in a bad mood. We've all done that. How many of you have ever made a decision when you're in a bad mood and later on thought, oh, I wish I never did that. I wish I never said that to that person. All of us, right? We all say things we don't believe. We say things we don't feel, and we feel things that we don't even feel, and we express them when we're in a tough situation. Hence, it's really important, if you're in that space, give yourself some breathing time before you make a decision or say anything to someone that it's going to impact. I try and do something for a good intention and it ends up messing up. I remember I've tried to help people, even something small, like I'm in a supermarket and I try and get something down from the top shelf for someone, and I try and do that. I trip over, knock over like a couple of bottles along the way, create a mess in the store, right? Even something as simple as that. And it happens all the time. We all do it. The truth is that we've become so outcome obsessed that we've forgotten how important it is to have good intentions. We've started assessing and judging things and obsessing over the outcomes as opposed to obsessing over the intention. We've got to realize that even if sometimes the outcome doesn't work out the way we want to, The intention is critical. Why? Because we can learn from reframing our intention. You can't really learn from the outcome. You learn from reframing your intention. So even if it ends up being the wrong choice, it only feels like the wrong choice because you become outcome obsessed. Switch from being outcome obsessed to become interested in your intention. Rewire your intention. Understand it a bit more. Excavate it. Think about it. And then let that drive your decision. It's also true that no choice is permanent. One of our biggest challenges with decisions, with choices, is that we feel that now we've made it, we can't change it. I remember someone that I was guiding, that I was coaching, that I was working with, and they just quit a really comfy job for a startup. They've got this comfy corporate job, they're switching into a startup. They took the courage to do that, only 3 months later to realize it's the wrong startup. It's not going to work. It's not something they're passionate about. And at this point, they were just like, oh my God, I've left this comfy place. I'm nervous. And I feel really like, I don't know, I'm going to run back, and are they going to take me back? And, all these emotions were running through that person's mind. The unbelievable thing is that no decision is permanent. And when you've learned from that situation, you can grow. The funny thing is, 3 months later, when the person was working on so many different things, they landed one of the best opportunities. They've now been doing that for about 6-7 months and feel absolutely happy. And now they've been telling me this. They said, actually, you know what? If I never left that comfort zone, if I never took that risk, I don't think I would have attracted what was meant for me. I don't think I would have attracted. Now, that's the philosophy of life that they've kind of conjured, that they connect with. But notice the difference in psychology. No decision is permanent. No decision is forever, right? We have to recognize that. We have to appreciate that. So we've always been trying to spot the difference in choices, so we notice that, but not all of us need those options or need those choices. Even research shows that most of us don't know the difference between Pepsi and Coke, although most of you will like to agree that Coke is better, right? But none of scientific research shows we don't know the difference. If you're given both in glasses without knowing what's in them, we make mistakes. We don't make the right choices. We don't know which one's Pepsi and we don't know which one's Coke, right? It's amazing how choices and brands all live in our space. But if you feel both are right, you go with your gut, recognizing you can always switch. You can always pivot. And we get scared of pivoting because it feels unnatural. It doesn't feel like the norm. But you look at the most successful people in the world, they've pivoted more times than you've started. And that's what we need to connect with, right? That the people out there who are out there, they've pivoted, switch, changed. And if we're just struggling to start, we limit ourselves from ever experiencing that in our lives. I want to throw out some more research to you. I love research because it really helps us grasp concepts. So Dan O'Reilly, one of my favorite authors, there's a great book called Predictably Irrational. He talks about how we make predictably irrational decisions. Definitely take a read of it. It's a fascinating read. And he talks about the offer for buying magazine subscription. I'm going to give you the choices A, B, and C. So he said there were 3 types. He went on The Economist. Now I want you to imagine this is your favorite magazine. It may not be The Economist, it may be. I want you to think about your favorite magazine, whatever it may be, right? You can choose fashion all the way through to business, through to politics, whatever it is. So he gave everyone 3 options. On this was The Economist subscription. So what you could have the online subscription, option 1, only online for $59. You could have the print subscription for $125 sent to your door, or you could have both, the online and the print for $125. So option 1, just the online subscription for $59. Second option, the print for $125, or both the online and the print for $125. So the second 2 options exactly the same amount. Which one would you go for? Now, when he did this study with Harvard Business students, I believe, or MIT students, I'll check that for you, he found that 16% of people went for option 1, which is online, and 84% of people went for both. And I'm seeing the same in your results. 1 and 3 dominate. Right? He did this with several students. 16% went for 1, which was just online. 84% went for both. 0% went for option 2, because if you're going to pay $125, you might as well get both. Why would you not do that? Right? So I'm seeing 1s and 3s flying through. The amazing thing is he called up The Economist. He said, why do you have these 3 options? It doesn't make any sense. If someone can pay $125 for print and $125 for both. Obviously, they'd go for both. Why would they just go for print for the same amount if they could have both? He says the Economist just hung up on him straight away. They just put the phone down. And the next time the website had been updated, they'd taken out the middle option. Now all people had was the option of online on its own or print on its own. There was no both as option. This time what happened is 68% went for online and 32% went for print. Look at that difference, right? Just look how that middle choice influenced more people to go towards the higher end, the higher cost, because they were told you could either have print for $125 or both for $125. Notice how our decision making changes when it's manipulated, how things are presented to us. So next time things are presented, check how they're being presented to you. And therefore, whether you're talking to a person, whether you're talking to a computer, whether you're talking to a robot, which is just around the corner, or you're already doing it and you don't even know, whichever one of those it is, recognize that there's two things we need to be sure about. The first thing is we need to be sure about credibility. We need to be sure about, is that person credible? Is it a credible source? And the second thing, which is even more important sometimes than credibility, is bias. Is there any bias in the way information is being shown to us? Is there any agenda? Is there any hidden bias behind the way things are being shown? And usually we don't spend much time thinking about that. Usually even when we're talking to a person, we just take their credibility as word, right? If someone's a billionaire or a millionaire and they give you some advice, it's kind of like, oh, I've got to follow that. That's for real. If a teacher says something, if someone comes on stage and says something, you have a natural level of authority that they handle. They just have a natural level of belief. Maybe some of you have seen Jimmy Kimmel's Live Witness News, right? If you haven't, check it out on YouTube. It's called Jimmy Kimmel's Live Witness News, where they walk around the streets with a massive camera and they put it in people's faces, asking them about events that never happened. They talk about things that have actually never happened. So they'd be like, how did it feel when, I don't know, when Beyonce jumped off a mountain yesterday at the VMA Awards or whatever it is? And people will go, oh yeah, that was incredible. I can't believe she did that. Oh my God, how did she have the courage to do that? And it's like these people haven't seen it because it never happened. But because we've presented things in a certain way, it affects the way we make decisions. Check out credibility, check out bias. Every choice you make affects you and someone else. There's actually very few choices we make on a day-to-day basis that don't impact others. The first question you need to ask yourself is, how much is that choice going to impact the other person? Is it 10%? Because even what you eat affects other people in different ways, right? But how much is it going to impact the other individual, right? Positively or negatively. Second of all, you want to think about, is there any way you can make a choice if it's going to impact someone negatively that it can be slightly checked or balanced so that that effect is not going to be as high? The third thing you need to ask yourself is, am I worrying about the right people? Right? Am I considering in this group of influence the right individuals? And the fourth thing is, are they really going to be impacted by it? Is it really going to affect them? One thing I've realized in life that's really blown my mind is that most people don't spend their day thinking about you, right? Believe it or not, most of people's lives are not spent thinking about others or other people. It's spent about thinking about themselves, just as ours are. So really think, is it really going to impact them? So we're talking about better decisions in the morning. We've got higher sense of serotonin. It's a natural high. It calms the brain. So try and make most of your big decisions before 11 a.m. Now, if you're going to make a big decision, maybe you've got to sign on the dotted line of $1 million contract. I don't know what kind of stuff you guys are doing. If you have that and the contract's going to be signed at 4 p.m., or you've got a big decision to make at 4 p.m., take a break before it, a half an hour break, a 15-minute break, slot that in before a big decision, right? Make sure you're not hungry before it as well. Ventilation, air is powerful. They said that the higher amount of CO2 in the space, the harder and constricted your mental abilities are at making good decisions. Get outdoors to make decisions, right? Go on a walk if you have to. Only 10, 20 minutes, that's all it takes. Cut down your choices. Go with gut instinct when you feel a lot of choices are right. Start with data when you can. Researchers found people who made most decisions shopping gave up maths test earlier, right? They gave up on things earlier because they'd made multiple decisions already. I really would check out Predictably Irrational. I've talked about it today. It sits with the theme, hence I would take a look at that book because I read that quite a while ago. And I remember reading it just completely reframed how I thought about decisions. It made me understand and become conscious about the way my mind works in default. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is, this is kind of like the final message that I wanted to leave you all with is that we really, really, really need to focus on how much faith we have in decisions we actually follow through with. So the choices we make. I'll give you an example. Let's take a really small example. Let's say, and I'm going to do this weekend, you're going out to buy a new pair of trainers. You're going out to buy a new item of clothing, whatever it may be. And you get out there and you're going out with some of your friends. So you've got a couple of your friends with you. Now you try on a pair of trainers and you feel great about them. You think they look great on you. You try an item of clothing, jewelry, whatever it may be, and you feel it works perfectly. It looks great. Your friends don't seem to like it. Then you try on another pair and your friends love it. They think it's unbelievable. They think it looks great, but you're not quite so sure, right? Now, you could go ahead, spend a lot of money. Obviously, these items of clothing aren't cheap. You spend a lot of money on them. You wear them afterwards. And when you're wearing them afterwards, when your friends aren't around, you're thinking, God, I really don't like these. I don't know why I invested in them, right? I wish I had the other ones. Then what do? You go and buy the other ones as well, right? Or you live in pain for the rest of your life with that choice you made. Now, whichever way it is, the point is that we've got to have faith and conviction and confidence in the decisions we're making. Now, sometimes that confidence and conviction is backed up by the people that support us, people that love us, and people that we trust. And sometimes they can actually deviate us from what we're actually looking for. It's important to know which one you want. Do you want to live with the other option and sometimes not be sure of your choices, or do you want to stay connected to the ones you've made? Really have a think about that. And the best thing is to speak to people who've had to make this decision before. That's one of my favorite pieces of advice. If you're struggling with a choice right now, some of you wrote down career choices, some of you wrote down what you're doing for college, someone chose down, what you're currently doing in entrepreneurs or startups. The point is, whichever one it is, speak to people who've gone far in that arena. Speak to people who've gone ahead of you in that arena. And I'm going to leave you with this last theme of the day that I want you to think about. It's a quote from Nelson Mandela. And he said, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears, right? When we make choices based on positive emotions, when we make choices based on happiness, based on service, giving to others, based on credibility, authenticity, integrity, instead of fear, we're making choices that will spiral and have a cascading effect to have a positive impact in the future in our lives. But when we're tuned in by fear, when we're making decisions because we're scared, fearful, lost, disconnected, that's going to create a spiral of decisions and choices that are going to be motivated by that. Place more value. Remember, switch to being outcome obsessed to being intrigued by your intention. Focus on your intention. Make your intention something that you refine on a daily basis. That will guide your choices in a much easier way.